Every campus has its ghost story. At Redwood State University, it isn't about a haunted dorm or a cursed classroom. It's about the girl who went downstairs to do laundry and never came back. It was a Tuesday night in late October, midterms week, the kind of night when half the campus was awake, wired on caffeine and anxiety. In room 317, Oak Ridge Hall, two roommates were cramming for exams, surrounded by open textbooks and empty coffee cups. At 11:29 p.m., one of them, Emily Hart, a 19-year-old biology major, stood up, scooped a pile of dirty clothes into a blue laundry basket, and joked that if she didn't wash her lucky hoodie, she would definitely fail her chemistry exam. Her roommate, Jenna Price, barely looked up from her notes. "Hurry," Jenna said. "The dryers eat quarters after midnight." Emily laughed, grabbed her student ID, and stepped into the hallway. Security cameras showed her riding the elevator down to the basement. She was wearing black leggings, a gray Redwood State sweatshirt, flip-flops, hair twisted into a loose bun. She balanced the basket on her hip, swiped her card at the laundry room door, and disappeared inside. At 11:41 p.m., the elevator came back up. No one was in it. At 12:07 a.m., Jenna sent Emily a text. "You alive down there? I need my hoodie back if you died." The message was never read. By 1:15 a.m., Jenna was pacing the hallway, knocking on neighbors' doors. By sunrise, campus police were searching the building. By the end of the week, flyers with Emily's smiling face were taped to every wall. The last confirmed thing she ever did was swipe into a dorm laundry room. One floor below, people sleeping, studying, scrolling their phones. No one heard a scream. No one saw her leave. To this day, the school tells nervous parents that Oak Ridge Hall is safe. But students know the story. They know that somewhere between room 317 and the humming washers in the basement, a college freshman vanished into thin air. This is the case of the college roommate who never came back from the laundry room. On paper, Emily Hart and Jenna Price looked like a mismatch. Emily, a first-year biology major from a quiet suburb 2 hours away. Honor roll, orchestra, never missed curfew. Jenna, a journalism major from Chicago. Loud, sarcastic, already talking about transferring to New York for internships. They met for the first time on move-in day, surrounded by parents, plastic storage bins, and the chaos of freshmen discovering how small a dorm room really is. Emily's side of the room filled up with color-coded class schedules, botanical prints on the wall, a stack of neatly labeled notebooks. Jenna's side was a mess of cameras and tangled charging cables, posters hung with painter's tape, a suitcase that never fully emptied. But underneath the surface differences, they clicked. They bonded over late-night snack runs, streaming true crime documentaries, complaining about the showers in Oak Ridge Hall. By mid-October, they were finishing each other's sentences. Emily called Jenna chaos with Wi-Fi. Jenna called Emily the only responsible person I know under 30. Friends and family said the same thing about Emily. She was reliable. If she said she would be somewhere, she showed up. If she borrowed something, she returned it. She texted her mom every night, even if it was just a heart emoji. She wasn't the kind of person who just disappeared. That's what made the night of October 21st so unsettling. Because nothing about that Tuesday had been unusual. Emily went to morning lab, lunch with Jenna, afternoon study session at the library. She called her mom at 6:12 p.m. to complain about an upcoming chemistry exam. "You'll be fine," her mom said. "You always are." By 9 p.m., Emily and Jenna were in their room, textbooks open, laptops glowing. The only decision Emily made that night that wasn't part of her usual routine was small and forgettable. She decided to do her laundry late. Oak Ridge Hall was like 100 other Midwestern dorms. 8 floors, long, echoing hallways, cinder block walls painted off-white, a constant smell of microwave popcorn and industrial cleaner. The building had one main laundry room in the basement. Everyone knew the laundry room rules. Don't leave your stuff unattended too long. Don't steal other people's dryer sheets. And most importantly, Don't go down there alone after 2 a.m. That last rule was more superstition than policy. The laundry room was creepy. Fluorescent lights that hummed, exposed pipes, and a heavy fire door that closed a little too slowly. But at 11:30 p.m., people were still coming and going. Camera footage later showed 3 students passing by in the hallway near the laundry room between 11:20 and 11:40 p.m. None of them remembered seeing Emily. At 11:31 p.m., the camera outside the elevator captured Emily stepping out into the basement corridor, blue basket in her arms. She paused, shifted the basket to her other hip, and walked down the hall. At 11:32 p.m., she swiped her ID at the laundry room door. The card reader flashed green. She pushed the door open. That's it. That's the last clear image investigators have of her. Inside the laundry room, there were no cameras. University officials would later call it a regrettable oversight. Students called it something else. Stupid. While Emily sorted her clothes, Jenna stayed upstairs, highlighting chapters that all sounded the same. At 11:41 p.m., the elevator dinged on the 3rd floor. When investigators pulled the footage, they expected to see Emily return. The doors slid open. The elevator was empty. No one got on. No one got off. It rode up, stopped, and then went back down. What triggered it remains unknown. At 12:07 a.m., Jenna finally noticed how long Emily had been gone. She sent the teasing text about the dryer's eating quarters. The message sat, unread, forever. It's easy to judge from a distance. People ask, why didn't Jenna immediately freak out? Why didn't she run downstairs the second Emily didn't answer? Because in the world of college, people disappear into the building all the time. They get caught in conversations in the hallway. They run into someone they know. They hang out in the lounge and forget to text back. At 12:15 a.m., Jenna assumed Emily was probably folding clothes while chatting with someone. At 12:40 a.m., she was annoyed. At 1:05 a.m., she was uneasy. Jenna went down to the 3rd floor lounge and checked. No Emily. She checked the study rooms. No Emily. She texted again. Hello, did the washers kidnap you or what? No reply. At 1:18 a.m., Jenna decided to go downstairs. She didn't bring her phone. The basement hallway felt colder than usual. The laundry room door was closed. She pushed it open and stepped into a room full of humming machines and fluorescent light. There were 5 washers running, 3 dryers spinning. 2 plastic baskets are stacked in the corner. No one else. In the far corner, 1 washer cycle had finished. On top of it sat Emily's blue basket. Inside were a bundle of neatly folded clothes that Jenna recognized as Emily's. The gray Redwood State sweatshirt Emily had been wearing earlier. The lucky hoodie she'd sworn she needed for the exam. Emily's student ID card rested on top of the folded clothes. Her flip-flops were on the floor beside the machine. The washer door was standing open. Water beads still clung to the glass. If Emily had walked out, she wouldn't have dressed, put on shoes, or taken her card. Jenna called her name. Her voice bounced off the tile. No response. She checked the hallway, the nearby vending machines, and the stairwell. Nothing. The longer she looked, the less it felt like an oversight. Something was wrong. At 1:33 a.m., Jenna went back upstairs and knocked on the resident advisor's door until he opened it, groggy and irritated. It's Emily, she said, shaking. She went to do laundry, and she's just gone. That's when the dorm stopped feeling like college and started feeling like a crime scene. At 1:48 a.m., campus police responded. 2 officers, both used to dealing more with noise complaints and drunk freshmen than real emergencies, walked into Oak Ridge Hall expecting to calm people down and send everyone back to bed. They didn't expect what they found in the laundry room. The scene was too tidy. Emily's clothes were folded, not scattered. Her ID and flip-flops were placed, not dropped. There were no signs of a struggle, no knocked-over baskets, no torn clothing, no blood. 1 officer walked the perimeter of the room, checking the small high windows. They were all closed and secured with safety locks. The only exit was the door Jenna had used to enter. The hallway outside was empty. Upstairs, students in pajama pants clustered in the corridors, whispering, watching. The RA used his master key to open every door on the basement level. A locked storage closet full of paint cans and old furniture. The mechanical room humming with boilers and pipes. A small study room with no windows. No Emily. By 2:30 a.m., the officers called their supervisor. At 3:10 a.m., the university's director of campus safety arrived. He ordered a sweep of the entire building top to bottom, an immediate pull of all door swipe logs and elevator records, a call to city police out of an abundance of caution. At 4 a.m., Jenna was sitting on her bed, wrapped in a blanket, answering the same questions again and again. What time did she leave? Was she upset? Did she mention meeting anyone? Did she have a boyfriend? Her answers didn't change. No, Emily hadn't been acting strange. No, she wasn't talking to anyone new. No, she didn't do drugs. Yes, she sometimes went down to the laundry room alone. Everyone did. Around dawn, officers used a master key to open every room in Oak Ridge Hall, waking up angry and alarmed students. They checked closets, under beds, and communal bathrooms. Nothing. The assumption slowly shifted. This was no longer a case of a student falling asleep in someone else's room or leaving campus with friends without telling anyone. By noon, the local police department had taken over. By evening, Emily Hart was officially listed as a missing person. In a modern campus building, everything leaves a trail, or it's supposed to. Investigators started with the basics. Card swipe logs for the building, elevator activity, security camera footage from all angles. The logs showed Emily swiped into Oak Ridge Hall at 10:56 p.m. after a late study session in the library. Emily swiped into room 317 at 10:58 p.m. Emily swiped into the laundry room at 11:32 p.m. There were no further swipes on her card. The elevator logs showed Emily is riding down at 11:31 p.m. Multiple other students are riding between floors throughout the night. The elevator arrived on the third floor at 11:41 p.m. with no clear trigger. The hallway cameras showed Emily walking from the elevator toward the laundry room. They did not show her returning. They did not show anyone carrying a struggling person, dragging a basket, or acting suspiciously. There was one detail that set off alarms. At 11:39 p.m., one of the basement hallway cameras glitched. For exactly 7 seconds, the feed turned to static. When it came back, everything looked the same. No one came in or out of frame. The IT department chalked it up to routine interference. The lead detective didn't buy that. Glitches happen, he said, but they don't usually happen the same minute a student disappears. Technicians took apart the camera. No physical tampering, no signs of cut wires. But when they checked the server logs, they found that 3 days before Emily vanished, someone had attempted to access the camera network from a student IP address on campus. The attempt failed. The IT department dismissed it as a clumsy attempt at hacking by a bored computer science major. Investigators wanted to know who. The IP address was traced back to an access point in the computer lab under the engineering building, open to dozens of students. No clear culprit. As for the laundry room itself, there was no camera. Nothing to show if Emily ever finished loading the machine. Nothing to show if someone else entered behind her. An entire case, hinging on what happened in a space the school hadn't bothered to watch. When a young woman disappears, investigators start with the circle closest to her. In Emily's case, that included Jenna, the roommate, Ryan Blake, an on-again, off-again boyfriend from freshman orientation, a handful of classmates and friends. Jenna was questioned repeatedly. Her story never changed. Her alibi, studying on her bed, texting a friend, scrolling through notes, was thin but consistent with phone and laptop activity. There were no signs of a struggle in the room, no suspicious searches, no evidence she'd ever left the building before going to the basement. Investigators moved on. Ryan, the quasi-boyfriend, was a different type altogether. He was a sophomore. a business major known for hard partying and harder opinions. He and Emily had had a messy argument at a football game 2 weeks before the disappearance. Texts between them in the days after showed Emily pulling back. Ryan is pushing to talk in person. Multiple unread messages from him on the night she vanished. Ryan insisted he'd been at an off-campus apartment that night, drinking and studying with friends. Those friends backed him up. Phone records placed his device miles away from Oak Ridge Hall during the critical window. He also had a strong, if unpleasant, logic on his side. If he is going to do something to her, he told detectives bluntly, "I wouldn't pick the basement of her own dorm, where everybody knows me." His casual cruelty made him unpopular in the court of public opinion, but not necessarily guilty in the eyes of the law. Then there was Ethan Cole, a quiet third-year engineering student who worked part-time as a night custodian in Oak Ridge Hall. He had keys to the building. He knew the basement. Other custodians said he sometimes stretched his break by disappearing into the lower levels with his headphones on. On the night Emily vanished, Ethan had clocked in at 10 p.m. His timesheet claimed he'd spent most of the shift cleaning classrooms in another building. But when detectives checked security footage, they saw him near Oak Ridge's side entrance at 11:25 p.m., just minutes before Emily went downstairs. Ethan claimed he'd stopped to smoke with a friend outside before starting his shift. The friend confirmed the smoke break. The camera angle never caught them clearly enough to dispute it. When asked directly if he'd seen Emily that night, Ethan hesitated. "Maybe," he said. "I see a lot of students. You stop noticing faces after a while." His key card logs showed no use on the basement access doors that night. Still, investigators couldn't shake the feeling that people who see everything in a building are also often the ones who know where no one is looking. Ethan lawyered up. Without physical evidence, they couldn't hold him. He quietly transferred to another campus the following semester. Campus rumors spread faster than official memos. By November, Oak Ridge Hall had turned Emily's disappearance into folklore. Some insisted it was an inside job. Someone in the building did it. Has to be. No way a stranger got in and out. Others were sure it was a serial offender who roamed campuses looking for unsecured basements. A group chat screenshot leaked to social media showed students comparing Emily's case to 2 other disappearances. A student from a different state who vanished after a late-night trip to her dorm's vending machines. A woman who disappeared from a laundromat near another college, leaving her basket behind. Both cases were real, but far enough away in time and distance that detectives were cautious about calling it a pattern. Still, the parallels were unsettling. Late night, laundry or vending machines. Last seen in transitional spaces, hallways, basements, parking lots. Detectives reached out to other departments. Most said no. One sent a case file that had been gathering dust for years. In it, a story about a student who'd been stalked by a man she met in the laundry room. He'd learned her schedule, waited for nights when she came alone. She'd reported him. He'd vanished before they could identify him. Back at Redwood State, Jenna struggled under the weight of implied suspicion. Some students avoided her. Others leaned too close, hungry for details. Her grades collapsed. She transferred at the end of the year. Before she left, she recorded a short audio statement for a journalist working on a piece about campus safety. "People keep asking me what I think happened," she said. "I think Emily went downstairs to wash her clothes, and someone was already there. Someone who knew they wouldn't be seen. And I think that person believes they got away with it." 5 years passed. New students moved into Oak Ridge Hall. The story of Emily Hart became a warning RAs told in hushed tones during orientation. "Don't go to the basement alone at night. I'm serious. Ask someone to go with you." Then, 100 miles away, during an unusually dry summer, a riverbed receded. Construction workers repairing an old bridge noticed the edge of something metallic jutting from the mud. It was the roof of a car. Once pulled out, the vehicle was almost unrecognizable under layers of silt and rust. The plates traced back to a missing car from a town near Redwood State, reported stolen 3 weeks after Emily disappeared. Inside the vehicle, investigators found cloth fibers, A single, long brown hair caught in a crack in the back seat. A broken stud earring is lodged in the carpet. The hair and fibers were degraded, but partial DNA was recoverable. When compared to a DNA sample from Emily's family, there was a partial match. Not enough to be definitive in court. Enough to suggest Emily had been in that car. The car's registered owner? A man with a long history of petty crimes and one conviction for attempted abduction, now deceased after a bar fight 3 years prior. He'd never been connected to Redwood State. There were no records placing him on campus. But his cell tower data from the week of Emily's disappearance, when resurrected from old records, showed multiple pings near the university. Had he posed as a maintenance worker, slipped into the building behind a student, targeted late-night laundry rooms? Detectives couldn't ask him. He was dead. The car offered more questions than answers. Still, it shifted the narrative. Maybe Emily's disappearance wasn't an inside job. Maybe it was the work of someone who understood that dorms. All those doors, all those faces. Often trust anyone who looks like they belong. When Emily's file landed on the desk of a regional cold case unit, they treated it like a brand new crime. They went back to the beginning, re-interviewed now older witnesses, reprocessed fingerprints and fibers with newer tech, re-examined card swipe logs and camera data. A digital forensics specialist noticed something new in the old footage. During the 7-second glitch in the basement hallway camera, the audio channel, previously ignored, spiked. Captured, a faint scrape, a muffled thud, something that could have been a soft exhale or a stifled cry. It wasn't enough to make out words, but it suggested some kind of sudden physical movement in that moment. Another analyst mapped out every card swipe into Oak Ridge Hall over 3 months. They noticed that on Tuesday nights between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m., the building saw a predictable dip in activity. Most students either went out earlier or were in bed. Laundry rooms were busiest between 10 o'clock and 11 p.m., and then again around 1 a.m., when procrastinators remembered they needed clean clothes. Emily's 11:30 trip landed in a quieter window. Someone who studied the building could have known that. A profiler on the cold case team suggested a scenario. The offender had watched the building for weeks. He'd learned patterns, when doors were propped, when staff did rounds, when laundry rooms were empty. On October 21st, he was waiting in the basement just out of camera range when Emily arrived. Maybe he posed as another student, complained about a broken machine, lured her into the mechanical room to help. Or maybe it was faster than that. A surprise, a weapon, a forced exit through a door whose alarm had been disabled or ignored. The cold case team couldn't prove their theory, but they could say one thing with certainty. Emily did not leave that dorm willingly. She didn't walk away from her life barefoot, without her ID. Someone interrupted an ordinary moment and turned it into a crime. Today, Emily Hart's disappearance lives in 2 worlds. In one, it is a case file, PDFs, evidence bags, chain of custody forms. In the other, it is a story students pass down. Don't do laundry alone at night. Not because of ghosts, because of people. Room 317 in Oak Ridge Hall has had many occupants since Emily and Jenna. The furniture has changed. Paint has been touched up. New posters have gone up, covering the small pinholes left behind by the missing person flyers. But some small things linger. The way the RA's voice drops when they mention safety. The way parents look around during move-in, calculating the distance from the stairwell. The way the laundry room door still feels heavier than it should. For Emily's family, the story isn't about campus myths or cold case theories. It's about an empty chair at Christmas, a bed that hasn't been slept in years, a degree that will never be earned. They don't care if the culprit was a stranger in a stolen car or someone who used to mop the dorm floors. They care that someone felt entitled to pluck a young woman off the timeline of her life between a load of whites and a chemistry exam. Somewhere out there, someone knows more. Maybe it's a roommate who heard a sound they brushed off as nothing. Maybe it's a worker who noticed a door propped open and didn't report it. Maybe it's someone who rode that elevator up at 11:41 p.m., saw the empty interior, and pushed the button without thinking about why it had arrived. Cases like Emily's don't just test police. They test us. They ask, how closely are we paying attention to the people around us? The college roommate who never came back from the laundry room wasn't reckless. She wasn't running off to meet a stranger from the internet. She was doing something every student does, trusting that a building full of people meant she was safe. Sometimes the scariest part of a story isn't what we can't see in the dark. It's realizing how quickly ordinary places can turn into the last place someone was ever seen. And that somewhere, in the humming echo of a basement laundry room, a cycle ended that never should have.